Hello beautiful nature lovers. In today's video I'm gonna share the most profound DMT trip I ever had in my life. The most profound spiritual experience I've ever had of my life. It's not even a trip, the word doesn't do it justice. And to start the video, the message what I got from the DMT was, if you ever want to learn something from psychedelics, you have to completely surrender and show courage. Hold your nose and jump into the abyss and let it all happen, and the universe will show you everything you need to know. The source of creation, God, DMT, is the all-knowing source of creation. We are DMT. We can produce our own DMT, but we forgot in this dimension to be able to live in this dimension as a human form. You have to forget to be able to grow up and everything. But this is the lowest dimension, and I've been here before, is what this DMT trip showed me. I just came down to free all the souls from this cycle of reincarnation that's been happening on this planet, because everybody's been living in a big ego dream of the Babylon instead of in God's holy dream of creation. In the third dimension, when we can switch to the fifth dimension of creation, even here, we can create heaven on earth if we want. And we can reach our full potential. We can levitate, we can use telepathy, all these things if someone wasn't holding a block on consciousness. And there's a reason for that too. Everything's for a reason. But in this trip, now let's get into the trip. I've smoked DMT many times before, but this time I saged the whole house. I walked around with sage, I burned it, I cleansed all the spirits, all the blocked energies, everything. Then I opened my heart and I called for the source of creation to guide me through the tip and show me what courage is and rid me of fear. And I'm ridden of fear, for sure. And I took one puff and I could barely see the bong from just one puff. I think I put in 30-40 milligrams. I eyed it. Then I took the second puff and the bong just disappeared, like poof! And a book opened like this. Boing! And in this book, there was everything, and I mean everything. It was God explaining to me how we are DMT. Our consciousness is made out of DMT. That is the source of consciousness. The creation of consciousness comes from DMT. And the all-knowing God that people talk about in Christianity and stuff, even though it's been confused, is the DMT molecule. The DMT consciousness of pure consciousness knows literally almost everything. Maybe it doesn't know every ego's little movie that is spinning off in the free will, but it knows how every dimension was built. It knows how everything was created, why we're here, where we come from, which other dimensions we used to live in. It knows everything about our soul and creation, and every prophet that ever talked to God, DMT. It showed me literally everything, and it's like what it showed me through telepathy or through pictures in this book and just channeling information to me is not fully meant to be comprehended in this physical realm, in this reality we are in right now, in the third dimension. Because if you have all that knowledge I had during that DMT trip, I would fly out. I would be in another dimension. I would ascend. I would fly out of here. Or I wouldn't want to live here if I didn't ascend from having that knowledge. We are pure consciousness, and this DMT trip showed me that every prophet, Jesus, Muhammad, Lao Tzu in Taoism, everybody managed to connect to their breath to produce their own DMT, or they used nature's DMT or psychedelics or mushrooms to communicate with God. Because that's what nature is. Nature is our true creator. And if you ever truly want to speak to God, you can. Nature is here. Just surrender your ego, take a big dose of DMT, mushrooms, psychedelics, mescaline, LSD, whatever, and you will communicate with the source of creation itself, which you are, but you are an expression of it in this dimension. You aren't the only creator. You're not brahman. We can touch brahman, but we're atman. We are the soul of the expression We're the soul as an expression of God, which makes us like a demigod, but also kind of God. It makes us a part of the source of creation. It makes us a part of God. We all have God within us, and we have the same creator abilities within us to use in our realities. But we are not the all-knowing source of creation, which DMT is. And this was NN DMT I smoked. I don't know the exact difference if I smoked 5-MeO DMT, but I'm pretty sure it's basically the same consciousness. It's just, imagine it, I see it like this now. Like DMT is beyond time, everything. Like the all-knowing source of consciousness is the top of all dimensions, where the pure light is beyond time, before existence. That's where DMT consciousness is, and it knows that everything happening under this, all the layers of dimensions, is just one big synchronization connecting. So basically, everything has already happened, but you can create your own ego movie and go off God's dream if you want. But usually if you're living from the ego, you'll have fear, you'll have suffering, you have misery. And that's living your life through the mind, always making decisions based on the ego, your mind. The ego is the metaphor, Satan is the metaphor for the ego. And God is in the moment, in the present moment. For the person who's truly present in the moment can feel the presence of God, the source of creation within us and all around us. And the biggest message of this trip was like, stay in the moment, use your ego to create for you when you want it to. Never let it rule you. Don't make decisions based from your ego in fear and all those things. I have zero fear now. Fear is only a reflex that we use when we're hunting and stuff like this, or not to burn my hand. I know that something's hot and my hand will react with fear, not to hurt itself. But fear in your mind is just a programming that makes us believe that we are separate from life, when in reality it's all one big creation. And when you separate yourself from things, you will feel fear, suffering and misery, because you're looking at something that is a mystery to you. Not even a mystery, it's unknown because it's separate from you, and that can make you fear it. But if you know that you are one with everything and you are the source of creation, and we're literally just dancing with the universe in this dimension. We descended to save the souls that have been stuck in this dimension for a long time. And it's time to truly realize that what we are, we're multidimensional beings of light that can create whatever dream we want. And nature rewards courage, not only with psychedelics, but with psychedelics especially. If you have fear, Terence McKenna says this really good. If you go to an ashram, a temple, or whatever, and you go to meditate, and you start meditating like this, and you're like, oh, I'm so afraid, then what are you going to reach with the meditation? Nothing. But if you are fully present, and you just breathe, and you completely surrender and let go of your ego, then through meditation, you're gonna produce DMT. You're gonna communicate with the source of creation. And that is what enlightenment is. And that's what all the past ascended masters, all the enlightened masters, they produced their own DMT through their brain. They mastered their own production of things by being fully present and using the breath in either yoga, tai chi, qigong, just normal basic awareness of breath from Buddhism. It's all just different ways. Of course, it's super healthy for your physical body with the breath, with the stretching and the moving and everything. But the goal of it all is to completely get out of your ego and stop living from your mind and living from the heart in the present moment. And then using the present moment's breathing to actually be in control of your hormones and productions in your brain to produce DMT and literally communicate with the source of creation. It will be more like the source of creation is communicating with you, and you just have to absorb it all. But you understand what I mean. And before this, I felt like 80 to 95% of my life I was conscious in the moment and not working against myself. But now, after this DMT trip, I'm fully there. I'm enlightened. I feel that I've touched what every enlightened master had ever touched on DMT. And guys, listen to me. I smoked DMT 50 times before this, bigger doses than I smoked now yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. But I didn't surrender. It's all about surrendering. If you surrender your ego, you completely let go, you lean back and just breathe. Just breathe. Just trust. Have courage. Take the leap of faith and jump into the abyss and realize that the abyss is just a feather bed that's holding you like this, hugging you, making you create whatever dream you want. You can do whatever you want whenever you want. Nature will remove the impossible obstacles for you to reach your dream if you take a leap of faith into the unknown of the source of creation, and you will realize what you can do. If anyone has any mental problems or depression, or they're spinning off in their mind and identifying too much with their minds, start practicing meditation a little bit. Start finding basic awareness of breath, or learn any meditation type where you learn to let go a little bit. And then you take a big dose of psychedelics in a meditative thing, like Terence McKenna style, alone in a room, turn off the lights, and just go within, lay down, completely let go, and let the compound, the molecules of nature, take you to the source of creation and explain to you why we're here, where we came from, and what we truly are. And this is true religion. This is how religion was created, but it's been twisted from all the prophets, and it's been translated, and there's been kings putting their egos in it so they can have power and money. So basically it's like maybe 10-20% truths in the holy text of the Bibles and stuff like this. But there's no need for a guru. There's no need for a Bible. There's no need for someone explaining it to you. There's no need for me to explain it to you. The only thing my message is of this video is that the psychedelic compounds of this planet is God trying to communicate with us what we truly are, where we come from, and what we're doing here. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. You can live in your ego as long as you want. I will love you the same anyway. And the next step of this is that, well, not the next step, but the thing with society right now is that we're suppressed. In the society we're living in now, we're living in a suppressed society where they're not letting us have responsibility over our own lives as adults. They're treating us as bullied kids that don't know any better. It's our birthright to consume nature. It's our birthright to experience the source of creation without anyone telling us what to believe in. The society we're living in now, it's like alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine. These are legal. These are the things they want you to use, because this is suppressing our consciousness. This is distracting us. These are ego boosters. These are stimulants that help you do things you don't want to do. That's what it helps. The alcohol dumbs you down, the nicotine and the caffeine helps you have energy to do the things you don't really want to do, but you've been pressured into doing by society. And we're living in such a suppressed society that government is treating us all like kids. We do not have responsibility over our own lives. What we want to consume, they decide. And you understand how suppressed that sounds? It sounds like we're kids forever. They're looking at us as someone that doesn't know what to do with their own life, so they have to tell us what to do and what things to consume to work in their little box, in their machine. And the truth of the matter is that God is all around us. God is nature and the universe. And you can dance against the universe, against nature, or you can dance with it. And if you're dancing with it, everything that was impossible when you were dancing against it and living in your mind is possible when you're living from your heart and living for the fun of creation, for the love of creation that we all are. There is some people in the top of the governments constantly trying to push fluoride, synthetic poisons and pollutions, everything into the food in mass production, so we are not able to produce our own DMT. That's why psychedelics are more important than ever, because in the ancient days, people could just like produce DMT super easily if they connected to their breath. But now there's distractions everywhere. We have the conceptual mind trying to understand the concepts of everything. We have the rational mind trying to explain everything, the logical mind that we're supposed to live from according to society, to fit in their machine of limited beliefs and limited thinking. If you're truly a free entity, a free spirit, you know that nature is our creator. And whenever you want to find out what God is, you can without taking anyone's words for it. Because God is right here around us in nature, waiting for us all to communicate with the source of creation. It's always there, always open, always loving, if we let it happen. If we surrender our importance of our ego and identification in our minds of who we are, that's just like a protection shell. It's just the duality of the soul, the ego, to be able to live in the dimension of duality. You gotta have the ego and the soul, but you can synchronize them so they work with each other instead of against each other. And that is what psychedelics truly help you do. They bring you into the moment, they make you experience something beyond the physical, make you experience ancient knowledge, our ancestors, all the prophets, the truth of reality, the true religion, which is nature. It makes you experience all of that. And anything I say beyond this are just like my words don't do the justice of what this can show you. And if anyone is keeping the plug on this, it's because they don't want people to wake up. They don't want people to remember what we are, because then they don't have anyone to govern anymore. If everyone was awake, they wouldn't have to govern anybody. That's the truth of the matter. Of course, we would maybe still have like laws about where to drive which speed in a car in some places or something, but there would be no laws what you're allowed to do with yourself or what you're allowed to do on your land that you own. Like, we're living in a suppressed society where we're literally, if we're following the laws of the government, we're living as slaves that are not allowed to consume nature, which is our God-given birthright on this planet. That is the true creator. If you look with your eyes and your heart instead of your mind, you can even do it with your mind, and you look around you, what are we? We are nature. What is around us? It's nature. What are the animals? They're a part of nature. What are we? We are a part of nature. What is mushrooms? It's a part of nature. What is DMT? It's a root that's a part of nature. It's all, everything is nature. And if you cannot see this, it sucks to be you. But here I am, sharing you God's knowledge, that God is waiting for us all to communicate with it. The All-Father of creation, Odin, whatever you want to call it, Jesus Christ, God, the source of creation, the goddess of creation, if you want to put genders on it, the eternal it, that is DMT, that we also are, but we descended to this dimension to experience more of life and more of duality and more things. But it's also been the free will spinning so long, letting someone's big ego dream of ruling the whole world with governments and banks and all this. Like, the free will always exist, and God will never stop the free will. But God can intervene through us with music, with dance, with art. Or like here, speaking now, this is the message of God. Realize what nature is. It's our true creator. It will give you everything you ever wanted. It will teach you everything you could ever want to know. It will enlighten you to become just as enlightened as a master, as a Buddha who sat in the mountains for 20, not like specifically Buddha, but anyone who sat in the mountains for a really long time, detoxified their body, learned to produce their own DMT. You can do all this with psychedelics. The only problem with psychedelics is people taking it low doses, distracting themselves, blah blah blah, and mixing in their ego. But if you take a big enough dose to shatter your ego, like 5 grams of mushrooms, over 30 milligrams of DMT, over 300-400 micrograms of LSD, and you completely surrender to the experience, it will take you to the source of creation. And the source of creation wants to communicate with us. It's like a little child full of unconditional love, like, come, see my knowledge, come touch me, I want to give you all the love of creation, to remember what we are and what we came here to do. It's like just waiting for it. It's like excited to tell the world that we are pure light and multidimensional beings of creations, literally gods, angels, just like living in an illusion of a blocked society in the matrix of like, and even like TVs are just a block of a direct experience. If you watch the news or something telling you what's happening around the world, it's making you conceptualize and rationalize what's happening in the world through your mind instead of seeing it with direct experience, it like directly experiencing it in the now. And already there, it's programming your mind not to want to have a direct experience with those things. Nature loves courage. Nature will give you abundance if you let it. If you surrender and realize truly that DMT is the source of creation. It is God's consciousness fully. I am God. I am a part of God. I am an expression of God. But DMT is the all-knowing source of creation. The top dog of creation that like you can't even comprehend properly in this dimension right here in our consciousness levels right now. I just wanted to share my amazing DMT trip. It's so profound that's like whatever I say now is just like 1% of what I got off the trip. And what the trip told me was that like no matter words I use, I can try my best to explain it to you guys with my words of the knowledge I have through my perception of life in this reality. But it will never do it justice because it's an experience to be had, not something to be explained. And that's like the exact same thing with the Bible or with the gurus. Like an enlightened person can do their best to explain what they've experienced, but it will never justify exactly what it was unless you experience it yourself. And DMT is waiting for us all to touch it, I promise you that. God wants us all to communicate with it. The source of creation is unconditional love and knowledge waiting for us all, not even waiting, just wanting us all to live with it and be connected to it all the time, instead of living in this society where we truly have adapted to believing that we're the ego and only matter. That's like, if you're gonna be metaphorical about it, God is in the moment and Satan is the ego, then we're living an egotistical based society, which basically makes it a satanic based society, where you believe that you're matter and you die. When you die, you're finished. There is nothing more. It's dark or something. Life is just a cycle. Death is just like switching cars to the next car. It's like, it's nothing to be afraid of. If you're afraid of death, you're living in separation through your mind, because the only thing you truly know once you become conscious and you grow up a little bit is that the same day you were born is the same day it decided that you were gonna die one day. Same time you were born, it was decided that you're gonna die. So if you're resisting death, you're resisting life, the cycle of life. There's nothing to be afraid of once we realize what we are and what life is and what's happening around us and why we're here. But my words are just my words. I would recommend for everybody to surrender completely. Jump into the abyss. Surrender your ego with a big dose of any of nature's psychedelics, even LSD. But before this, LSD was my favorite psychedelic because I've smoked DMT so many times and just gone to different weird entities and stuff and like different layers of dimensions. But that's when you're holding on to your ego. If this is 3D and this is top of dimensions where pure DMT all knowing consciousness is, if you're holding on to your ego, you might go up here into the middle of the dimensions where there's other entities and elves and spinning around. But if you completely surrender, it will take you to the top dimension of source of creation where everything has already happened. I love you all. We're heaven sent by God, I promise you guys that.